Another, well, there's so many things to think about in terms of presentation of material. You know, I like to use material from other people in the group as well. And I have right now 3 or 4 groups. I have the quindectet, I have 2 quartets that kind of interchange. When people are available in one, I'm able to use that. If they're not available, I go to the other quartet. There's also a quintet. And those are the basic formats that I use. I like to play music written by people in the band. And I also like to use occasionally reharm or rearrangements of standards. I generally, for me, this is again extremely personal. I haven't been a big fan of just playing standards for standards' sake, even though the music from that repertoire certainly made its mark on me when I was growing up. I played you know, standards with my father often. My father was a jazz pianist. It never totally felt representative of who I am, and I also never felt like I had anything or as much of my own to say in a standard format unless I was able to rearrange a standard. Important for presentation is certainly is the arc of any concert, and there's many ways to do this. That involves, you know, again, everyone's own particular musical sensibilities, but you know, things to think about is, you know, variation in repertoire, variation in rhythmical feels, variation in tempo. You don't generally want to play 2 really fast tunes in a row, or 2 ballads in a row in a concert, or songs that are often in the same key. Sometimes in a concert you might want to play shorter and allow for, you know, encores and audience response. It's very helpful in a concert setting to break things up, to allow people to play solos or duets. And you know, I have been a big fan of playing solo saxophone, and actually have been doing solo concerts the last couple of years, which end up being sort of partially kind of a retrospective almost. I do a lot of talking because I get tired from playing 15 minutes straight. Then I find that I have to talk just to break it up and get some rest. So I tell stories, kind of really funny things from tours, and find that I have kind of a whole repertoire of solo saxophone tunes that are fairly effective and fun. And throwing those in occasionally in a concert is effective as well. Also, there's, you know, I almost hate to say this stuff because, you know, it's so relative and so personal and different in every context I play in. But with my own groups, I try not to play too long, which famous last words. In any solo or any given solo context, I try and abbreviate what I have to say, or say it in a way that's concise. At the same time, leaving it open for kind of a what's the expression? Train of consciousness. That's not the
stream of consciousness.
Stream of consciousness, allowing that process to happen, but not in a way that's long-winded. And my very first experience with that was on my first bona fide jazz gig with Horace Silver in 1973. It was my first night on the gig, and we were playing Song for My Father, which was his kind of big hit and the song that he was identified with at the time. People in the audience always used to call out for it, and it happened to be kind of a tenor extravaganza. And I would be, you know, the tenor solo was always the last solo on that tune, and that was kind of that was the big climax of the song. And I got up there and I started playing my solo on Song for My Father, and I had played for a while and thought that I was doing a great job. And Horace turned around to me and at the top of his lungs yelled, "Gone," G-O-N-E, gone. And I thought he was saying, "Go on." I didn't know that gone was kind of bebop lingo for stop. You know, you've said it, you've had enough, you know, end it. So I thought he said, "Go on." I thought he was enjoying it. So I bared down harder. And after another minute or a half or 2 minutes, he yelled around, now frustrated, and said, "Gone." I said, "All right, I'm gonna, great, fantastic." Eventually, I ended it probably after 10 or 15 minutes, and he came up to me after the show, and he said, "When I say gone, that means stop." And that was the first inkling I had of any kind of way of editing myself to affect a better presentation. It was the first time I ever became aware of presentation, really, in any way that made sense, was with Horace. And he was a very good teacher, a great band leader, gave us an enormous amount of freedom. At the same time, he knew how to, for his own musical sensibilities, knew how to put on a good show. And so I learned a lot in that environment, and try to hold on to some of that to this day. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to backtrack just a second. Some of the tunes that you write are what I would call harmonically sophisticated, somewhat complex. Is any of that founded in any of the theory or composition you may have had at Indiana University, or is this a culmination of years of experience, any formal study?
It's a culmination, I think, of 35 years of trying to write and playing other people's tunes and finding out what it is that works for me. I've had the fantastic opportunity and privilege of playing in so many different ensembles over the years, playing the music of really great writers, beginning with Horace Silver and Herbie Hancock, McCoy Tyner, Chick Corea, on and on. And they all have very different musical sensibilities and write in really different ways. But all of them had an effect on me. And part of the beauty of being around them was hoping that some of it would rub off, And so I'd have to also include my brother in that lineage as well, because he's, I really consider him one of the great writers of the last few decades. And you can't help but be affected rhythmically, harmonically, and sensibility-wise from all of these things. And the list goes on. So there's that, combined with, of course, many attempts at trying to write things. I have written a lot. As I said, maybe 1 out of 4 things remain. That combined with studying, with taking lessons. And I've had various forays in the past. Beginning studying with David Brecker at Indiana University, but I didn't really study composition with him. I studied the Schillinger system for a while when I first moved to New York, which was very interesting. Eventually took lessons for a few years with a guy named Edgar Grana in the beginning of the 80s, we did counterpoint. And, just really looking at the tools of composition. And then just started to write.